expecting from me when you come into my classroom?
I would be looking to see that you are teaching the standards in the curriculum. Good practices, having your, all the parts of a good lesson, that you would be looking for some type of a hook, that you'd be stating your objective, that you'd be doing some type of direct instruction, and then putting the group students into situations where they're able to have some practice.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about my classroom, what the behaviors look like, my discipline situation, and differentiation. What I do for differentiation. Okay, so basically the classroom is pretty good. They're very team oriented. I do have a few behaviors. You know most of my behaviors.
Yeah, you do.
And so I will occasionally have some issues, but when I do have issues, I have a board over there and I have the students clip their card. They clip their card once for the first misbehavior, another time for the second misbehavior, the third time is a warning.
Okay.
And then beyond that, they owe me their recess or we take it out of the classroom. So at that
So
point,
you're holding them accountable in other words.
Yes.
Okay, for
So
lower
that's-
actions.
yeah.
Okay, good.
And that's how my discipline system works. As far as differentiation, I do have a number of students that come in, both the resource students and also the extended resource students and the severe special needs students that come in. And I do try to differentiate for all of them. Of course, my severe special needs students have their own work that we do specifically with them, and I have my students come over and work with them. That's usually during centers time. So each center is doing their own work. And the center that's doing their reading counts, they will be doing reading counts, and then each one will take 5 minutes with the girls. And so they'll work with the girls for 5 minutes and then go back to reading counts, and the other one will work with the girls.
So the time period that you've agreed to let them come in is conducive to situations where they can talk, that it's an appropriate time to have those types of conversations and working together.
Yes, exactly. Then I have my differentiation for my extended resource students. And for them, I basically have them partnered with someone who can help them. I will come around and help them as needed, and then I've also modified the work that they're expected to turn in. So whereas the rest of the class may be expected to turn in a full paper, they will be expected to turn in maybe a paragraph or a few sentences. But they are expected to come up with as much of it on their own as they can. So depending on the difficulty of the task, I will allow more or less help, depending on it. So in the situation where we were testing the other day, their helpers were only allowed to help if with the first problem if they were having a hard time remembering a portion of how to do it. So they had to do as much as possible on their own, and they were only allowed to help with the first problem of each set. So they had to do the subsequent 3 or 4 problems by themselves. So
they were
that
doing
way,
modeling on, basically modeling or extra support on the first one, and then trying to transfer the skill onto the next essential problem.
Yeah, and one of mine doesn't really need that much help, and the other one requires a little more. His needs are a little deeper. So, like I said, I have it kind of specific to the 2 of them, and their helpers know what they're allowed to help with and what they're not. But so that would be an example of some of the places where they're expected to do on their own, and where they are allowed that extra help. For my regular resource students, they have their own IEP specifically indicating what I'm allowed to do for them in the classroom. Some of them get modifications and some don't. So it just depends on the student.
And you're basing it off of their IEPs?
Yes, I'm basing it off of their IEPs and also what I see from them. For example, I have a student who has a lot of issues with spelling. So for him, a lot of times I will write the words out and have him actually copy the word for word. So larger words I will spell for him and I'll put them up on the board. Things that might have a difficult sequence, like fashion. It doesn't follow the TION rule, and that he might understand, and so I will spell it if he wants me to. So I do allow him that help. But he does have to try to spell every word by himself. And if a word is small enough or something he should know, then I tell him he has to think about it and he has to try his best to write it and see if he can get it right. And then we kind of try to sound it out sometimes together. The clinical rubric. Okay. So I'm sure you've seen the clinical rubric. I did a little printout of it.
Okay.
This is what we will be using it for evaluation.
All right.
So this kind of just talks about what's expected of me and what, where I fall in the scale. So we have, of course, 0, which is incomplete, and then 4 is outstanding.
Okay.
So with each of these, I'm going to try to hit outstanding. Of of course, in all of them. I may fall short, but I'm gonna try my best to hit outstanding in all of them. And so this can really be used to help us to figure out where I'm falling and what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
So we can use this for evaluation. I think that would be a really good idea.
Fantastic. Okay.
So each of the standards are in there, and it's got the very specific list of what things I need to show. And the nice thing about it, I think, too, is that maybe we could even use it if I'm confused by the rubric. For instance, if I didn't understand that, you and I might be able to sit and talk a little bit about how I could show that. And maybe I could give you some examples of what I'm thinking to use, and maybe you can give me some examples.
Okay. We will be having some conversations before I come in, and then I'll be coming in and observing, and then we'll have some conversations afterwards.
Yes,
And definitely, this will be excellent to support us in our conversations.
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you have high standards, but wherever you lie, you definitely have an opportunity to say, where can I, you yourself know how you're gonna improve it.
Yes, exactly,
So-
yeah, and I can think about that and discuss it with you both before and after, especially if there is a place where I fall less than outstanding.
We're gonna base it off of the data that I've scripted, so that we actually can prove using data where you might fall. And then that takes the, any of my opinions out of it, so that we can definitely base it off of that type of thing.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about a couple of lessons that I'm planning for the first week.
Okay.
One is, of course, we've been moving into Eureka, so I'm going to be starting a lesson on multiplying fractions. And as you know, Eureka is pretty well scripted and pretty well laid out for me. Another lesson that I plan for next week is I plan to do a close reading lesson,
Okay.
especially with the conversations that we've been having in the weekly meetings. I think it would be good for me to bring my students back to that. I'm always trying to bring them back to close reading.
Especially right now.
Yeah, multiple things and finding similarities and differences and answering questions from both. So I'm going to be bringing in a lesson like that, and I'm thinking I want to try to find a lesson or an article specifically that is in poem form, because I do have the corpse flower one that I have. It's a corpse flower article, text information, and then a corpse flower poem. The article and the poem are both very short, so I'm thinking I may try to find a longer one if I can. If not, I'll use the corpse flower. What I would like to do in this lesson is have the students work together in pairs.
Okay.
And so that one will close read the first paragraph,
All right.
and they will give the other one their opinions on what should be underlined, what should be circled, what should have a question mark, and all those things. And the other person can give them feedback,
Okay.
and then they can switch. So I really like it to be where there's at least two areas
So,
for
okay, so
that,
how you've decided to present the lesson and have the kids working, I can see now why you were looking for a longer
yes.
text.
But the other one that I wanted to do is I noticed when I was looking through my paperwork that one of the places where I fell short of the district's amount, but not only just the district, but also the other teachers.
Okay.
So I wanted to make sure I hit this with my students again, because either I didn't hit it hard enough, or something has happened where it's not pulled up as much as I would like it to. So this one is standard RL 5.2, and that's key ideas and details, determining the theme of the story, drama, poem, from details in the text, including how the characters in the story or drama respond to challenges, or how the speaker in the poem reflects upon a topic and summarizes the text. So we talk a lot about theme in the class. We talk about it all the time. And my students really know the difference between theme and main idea. They quote it to me all the time. So I'm thinking that the place where they must have gotten confused had to be in the details. It's saying to determine the theme from the details in the text. So I'm going to check the questions to make sure that what I'm
hoping you were going to say you were going to check the questions.
I'm going to check the questions to make sure that what I'm thinking is accurate, but what I'm thinking is I want to have them specifically looking at theme and pulling the details out to support it. So we'll talk about the theme together as a group, but then they will go through and they will pull in the sentences from it that support what that theme is. If it does end up being related to the details, and even if it's not, even if it is related to the way I'm talking about it, I think giving them that opportunity to pull the details out and support it and actually have to write down the details so that they have to support their thinking, I think will help them either way.